yo, I'ma keep it a stack. You know we gotta kill you, right?
Holy Jesus.
So starting off, we meet our MC, Yuji Itadori, and he's calling the hospital to see how his dying grandpa's doing, and he sounds happy that his grandson's checking in on him.
Tell him not to come here.
We also meet the man, the myth, the legend, Megami Fushiguro, and he's on a mission to retrieve a cursed object from Yuji's high school. Realizing the cursed object isn't there, he calls Gojo.
Listen, orphan, go get that damn cursed object and don't call back till you get it.
That nigga wasn't talking to me. I'm gonna let that be known right now.
Now at his school club with Sasuke and Iguchi, and basically he's in a occult club where they do and talk about supernatural things. Till homeboy over here tries to shut it down, saying Yuji's not actually registered to this club and they don't have enough members to be called a club. Why is he not registered to the occult club? Because the coach changed it to track and field. But the coach cuts him a deal, saying if you defeat me, I'll excuse you from the team. Again, we see Megami, who sees a grade 2 cursed spirit that was drawn here from the cursed object he was looking for, saying he feels like it's close by, and we get to see a picture of it. We then cut back to the coach and Yuji having a throwing competition, and Yuji just blows him out the water. Now having defeated the coach, he gets to stay in his little club and books it early, saying he had something to do, passing Megami, who senses a cursed object, but that boy too far gone now. However, he was in a rush to visit his grandpa and even brought flowers for the nurses, and his grandpa tells him he should save as many people as possible, and when he dies he should be surrounded by people and not to end up like him. And yeah, those are some powerful words. And then he died. He then signs some papers and tells the nurse he'll be fine because his grandpa wouldn't want him moping around. Then Megami pulls up like the Dark Knight and they get straight to business. He says where the cursed object at, and basically explains when a large pool of negative energy like depression, regret, shame, or things of that nature, they basically swell up and become curses. And those curses, called cursed spirits, are attracted to cursed objects. Also, these cursed spirits cause about 10,000 deaths and missing person reports. So in short, bro, you better hand over that cursed object. But Yuji says he doesn't have it anymore and throws him the empty box. And remember his friends that were in the supernatural occult club or something? Yeah, they basically plan on opening that finger tonight. And talk about after school hours, they really snuck back into school to do this. And I'm telling you, as soon as they unraveled the finger, the curses started attacking them immediately. Now Yuji and Megami are full halting towards their location, and when they get there, Megami tells Yuji to wait out here while he goes inside. And this is where it turns from a shonen to a full-on horror movie, as Sasuke is hiding in the corner. And it already looks like they got homeboy right here. Megami is still yet to get there. But as soon as he gets there, he hits the summoning jutsu and summons the demon dogs. And Yuji outside like, am I afraid of death? Meanwhile, as Megami spins the corner, they's caressing my girl and halfway done eating my guy. And Megami talking about something he not gonna make it. And he the only actual sorcerer in this situation right now. This is where Yuji come busting through the window and lands this beautiful punch on this cursed spirit, saving both of his friends in the process. But hey, at least Megami finished off the cursed spirit. And Megami's surprised he's able to see curses and his Shikigami, which wasn't possible for Yuji before, but since he got put in a life and death situation, he can see them now. And Megami's just like, yeah, anyway, that's Sukuna's finger. And as soon as he's about to hand it over, they get attacked again. But don't worry, Megami's putting up a great fight. And he just straight up flings this man out the school. But Yuji right behind it, but he's not putting up much of a better fight either. And remembering when Megami said you would eat the finger to gain stronger cursed energy, so Yuji's like, well, I guess I'll just need cursed energy of my own, and eats the finger. And he goes from not even being able to touch this monster to absolutely one-shotting it. But this also means he just incarnated Sukuna. And that guy a little too excited about this.
Where are the women and the children?
Realizing he can't fully take over Yuji's body, Megami gets prepared to exercise him. Like he's gonna do that. And then Gojo appears, and he asks Itadori if he's able to swap with Sukuna at will, and he's like, yeah, I think I can do something like that. Then he says change into him for 10 seconds so he can flex this power difference real quick. That boy Sukuna wastes no time hopping in with a downward strike from the sky, and looking like he just used Boogie Woogie, Sukuna's actually impressed with his speed. And Gojo just like, my students are watching, let me show off a little bit. And my boy Sukuna's just baffled. Eventually the time's up and Yuji takes control again, and Gojo's actually surprised he can control him right now, so he knocks him out since he has potential to be Sukuna's vessel. And Gojo's like, what do you think we should do with him? And Megami's like, well, under Jujutsu regulation, he really should be executed, but I want to save him. And Gojo like, leave it to me. And then it cuts back to where we started, and Gojo's like, basically that's the story on why you gotta get executed. But since he's Satoru Gojo, he's able to get his sentence suspended. Ultimately, this is where we learned that there's 20 of these fingers in total, not counting his toes, because eating toes are crazy, but because Sukuna has 4 arms. And these fingers are said to be indestructible, so destroying them is not an option. And Gojo basically proposed a plan to the higher ups to get Yuji to eat all 20 fingers, then execute him after, because if he dies, the curse inside him dies too. too. Yuji then meets up with his friends in the hospital and they seem to be doing well, and he takes accountability for giving them the finger. Nonetheless, Yuji agrees to Gojo's plan, since if he gets rid of all these fingers, there will be less people getting hurt by curses, and he digests that thing. Now that he's determined to get rid of these fingers, Gojo like, my guy. Yuji also finds out they're taking him to Jujutsu High in Tokyo, the same school Megami currently goes to, and he'll be one of only 3 first years there. So saying bye to his grandpa and now arriving at Jujutsu High, he's about to have an interview with the principal, saying, hey, when I get this kid's body, you're gonna be the first one I kill. And he says his iconic line, if Sukuna regained all his power, he might cause me a little trouble.
But would you lose? I would win.
This is where he meets Masamichi, the principal, and he asks him why he wants to become a sorcerer. And when he gives him the shonen answer of I want to protect people because my grandpa said to, not being satisfied with that answer, he activates his Jujutsu manipulation cursed corpse to start attacking Yuji, saying at this rate you might just end up cursing your grandpa's dying wish, and Jujutsu sorcerers never die without regret. And this is where he gives him the better answer, saying as long as Sukuna is causing deaths, he can't just sit on the sidelines. And with that, he's admitted and tells Gojo to show him to his dorm room. And while checking out his new room, Gojo tells him the 2nd and 3rd years are out at the moment, and basically they're ready to use Yuji as a GPS to track down the rest of the fingers. So now with them all together, Gojo tells them they're gonna go pick up the 3rd and final 1st year, and they're meeting up in Harajuku. So moving on to the next day, Yuji's like, yo, how come there's only 3 kids in 1st year? And Megami basically explains to him people who can see curses are rare and people who can use Jujutsu is even more rare. This is where Gojo shows up late as usual, and Yuji's like, yo, how come my fit looks different? And Gojo said, yeah, I just put in a custom order for you, and you're the main character, so you gotta stand out. Finally, they meet the last 1st year, Nobara Kugisaki. Now it finally looks like a real shonen trio. So now with the gang gathered up, it's time to take these countryside kids to Tokyo. But Gojo kinda debates them and takes them to an abandoned building taken over by a curse, which is across from the cemetery, and since people associate that with death and uneasiness, led this building to be taken over by cursed spirits. And Gojo just tells them, yeah, I want to see your capabilities. Think of this as a field test. And since Yuji doesn't know how to use his cursed energy yet, he's like, here's Maki's dagger, now get in there. And side note, since this weapon's imbued with cursed energy, it'll work on the cursed spirits. And Megami's sitting this one out since he's still recovering from the injuries when Yuji and him got attacked. Back inside, Yubara suggests they split up. While she goes upstairs, Yuji's gonna go downstairs. And as soon as she leaves, Yuji immediately starts getting attacked by a curse. And holy, this looks like a deformed grasshopper. But however, Yuji swiftly takes care of this cursed spirit. This is where we get to the real test, and Gojo just wanted to see how crazy she really was. Is she really about that exercising curses? It's time to find out.
Hey, what up, curse?
So she takes out the first curse pretty easily, and then she notices there's a child behind the boxes. She tries to get the child to come with her, but he's scared. So she thinks about getting Yuji, but soon after, a cursed spirit comes through the wall and takes the kid hostage. So now with the kid hostage, she tries to surrender to the curse, so it lets the kid go. But that boy Yuji come in clutch and chops his hand off and releases the kid. Now that the curse know it's outmatched, it makes a break for it. And using the hand Yuji cut off previously, she uses her curse technique, Straw Doll Residence, and blows his back out. And then we get a little flashback of Nobara's childhood. And basically, she just took a liking to a girl named Sari who ended up moving. Then Yuji asks her why she wanted to come to Jujutsu High, and she said she just wanted to move into Tokyo. Overall, they end up bringing the kid home, and then they decide to go out to eat as a celebration. And as that's happening, we get news of a cursed womb that's forming above a juvenile detention center. And these juveniles are definitely pushing 40. This is where we meet my guy, Kiyotaka Idachi, and he's an assistant manager at Jujutsu High. And basically, he breaks down there's 5 detainees inside with the cursed womb, and their job's to get in there and save survivors. And he tells them this curse has the potential to become a special grade cursed spirit, but Yuji still has no idea what that is. And basically, as he says, he breaks it down idiot level. The lower the number, the stronger they are, excluding special grade, because that's another level of strength. And he sums it up as grade 4 is baseball bat level, grade 3 is handgun level, grade 2 is shotgun level, and grade 1 you might need a couple of tanks. And special grade, if you're not a special grade sorcerer, you're probably dead.
Please, my son's in there. Save my son.
Listen, ma'am, your son is in the building. I'm gonna need you to leave the premise. Because do you see any special grade Jujutsu sorcerers around? I think not. So he opens a veil, which is just a barrier, and the 3 of them go inside. And then when they walk in, Megami's like, yo, something ain't right here. They look back and the door is gone. And it looks like they're in an incomplete domain. Nobara and Yuji don't seem too stressed though.
What'll we do? What'll we do? It'll be fine.
But Megami's like, don't worry, my dog remembers the scent to the entrance, and then they progress through the domain. And then remember the lady that was asking about her son? Yeah, they found him. Don't feel too bad though, this is a juvenile center, and he hit and killed a little girl. But Yuji's dead set on at least bringing the body back to the mother. And Megami's questioning him, saying, what if someone you save goes on to kill somebody else? Then Nobara breaks them up and immediately gets snatched after. And when Megami breaks his neck to look for his demon dog, yeah, it died. And he tells Yuji, yeah man, plan B bro, we're getting out of here. And then that's when the cursed spirit shows up, so it looks like running's off the table for now.
Whoever moves first is gay.
Oh nah, he not finna play with me. Take this! Well, there goes his only way of defending himself. And Nobara doesn't seem to be doing any better than they are. So Yuji comes up with the idea and says, yo, Sukuna, if I die, you die. Help me out here. And Sukuna, being Sukuna, says, I got 18 more fragments of my soul out there, bro. I ain't helping you out. And then Yuji tells Megami he's gonna buy enough time for him and Nobara to escape so he can switch places with Sukuna, and tells him to signal him when he's far enough. And while that's happening, Yuji's getting his cheeks. Boom! And then he just flexes his aura and burns off Yuji's fingers. And at this point, Yuji's in despair. This is where he finally builds up the courage and uses his cursed energy for the first time. So that boy charges up the juiciest Falcon Punch and gets blocked. And just when you think hope's lost, this is where he hears a howl. So you know what that means. It looks like Megami and Nobara made it to safety. Time to switch to Sukuna.
What a pain this brat is.
But let me tell you, this dude Sukuna is already feeling himself. He's like, hold on, let me think real quick. Cause my guy Sukuna is not no ordinary villain. This man is petty as hell. So he's just thinking of ways to make Yuji regret this. He like, nah, I can't go after Megami because he's just gonna switch back. So he like, nah, scratch that. I'm just gonna put things to where they were before. Then he says, all right, follow me. Let's go take out these kids. But the curse jumps back and then charges up a ki blast. Probably the worst thing he could have done. But he just effortlessly parries it, but he's not even worried about that. He's like, damn, I didn't mean to heal this kid's hand. Sukuna then ponders for a little bit and he's like, oh yeah, cursed spirits usually stay where they're born. Well, guess I'll just kill you here then. And he just looks disappointed. He's like, you done already? And then he stomps him out. And just when it thinks it's gonna land a clean hit on him, he cuts his hand off. Back outside, Mr. Itachi's gonna take Nobara to the hospital and Megami's gonna stay behind to make sure Yuji's good. He did say he didn't want him to die after all. Meanwhile, Sukuna's just crucifying this curse. So the special grade uses reverse curse technique to heal, and Sukuna's still talking smack. He like, healing with cursed energy is more impressive for humans. And bro just says, nah, y'all all sorry. Let me show you what real Jujutsu is.
Domain expansion. Malevolent Shrine.
Oh wait, oops, wrong arc. And then he proceeds to fish fillet the special grade and takes his finger back in the process. And then he's like, all right, brat, you can switch back now. Realizing Yuji can't, he lets out this sadistic smile. And Megami senses that the special grade was defeated. So he like, well, now I just gotta wait for Yuji to come back. Sukuna flash steps behind him and says, yeah, the punk's having trouble switching back. And just for good measures, he strips down and takes his heart out. Because if Yuji were to switch back now, he would just immediately die. And Sukuna's good because he knows how to use RCT. And while at it, he devours the finger. And Megami saying, I believe in Yuji, he's coming back, but Sukuna not trying to hear all that. He like, come on, come at me already. So he summons his bird Shikigami, but Sukuna's just glad to be outside again, enjoying the fresh air. And Sukuna just turns into Weave Nation. He like, interesting, you attacking me yourself when you have a Shikigami? And Sukuna just continues to dodge and parry his strikes, and then he grabs his fist and says, put your back into it, boy. So Megami like, you want me to put my back into it? So he summoned a giant snake, and bro, just look at Sukuna's face here. He is not stressed. And Sukuna just straight up flexes and destroys the entire body of the snake. He flash steps and grabs him by the shirt. Mans is like, let's change the battle stage real quick, and flings him across the map.
Damn, I might have to just summon Maharaga.
But he is not finished. Before he can even hit the ground, he hits him with a devious roundhouse kick. And this man Megami is bouncing off rooftops. Like, bro, just look at this real-time stage transition. But good thing his bird came in clutch. But it doesn't matter because he's right back on him and pounds him to the ground. And since his demon dog and snake got destroyed, he decides to unsummon his bird because once his Shikigami are destroyed, he can't resummon them. But before he can take Sukuna head on, he hits him with a powerful speech saying, I never once regretted saving you. And that was just enough to help Yuji regain control. But since Sukuna ripped his heart out previously, he dies. This is where we see Kenjaku and 3 citizens behind him discussing Sukuna's fingers. Then he walks into a cafe and books a table for one because people cannot see cursed spirits. Meanwhile, while Gojo and Itachi are talking about Yuji's death, and Gojo believes the higher ups sent Yuji and his squad on that mission so they can dispose of him. These are the same people that sentenced Yuji to death, but Gojo got it suspended. Because if you think about it, sending first years on a special grade mission is suicide. And then we meet my girl, Shoko. Oh my god. And she's basically getting ready to cremate him. Moving on, Megami and Nobara are discussing Yuji's last words of saying, live a long life. Yeah, they're pretty sad. This is where we meet the second years, Maki Zenin, Panda, and Push to Talk Dude. And what's his name again? Toj. And for a quick summary, Maki's good at using cursed tools. Push to Talk Dude can only speak in rice ball ingredients, so he doesn't control people. And that's Panda. He's a panda. There's also one more second year, Yuta, but he's across seas. And basically they're all here to invite them to the Kyoto Sister School Exchange event.
So what exactly do you do at this event? Smash Bros? I rule at the Wii version.
And basically, it's when the other schools and their principals get together to name a competition during the slow season of Jujutsu. And then Panda adds in day 1 is team battle and day 2 is individual battles. So with that, they agree to join to get stronger. Elsewhere at the cafe, they're having a meeting about Jujutsu sorcerers. And the cursed spirits believe since they're born on raw emotion, they should eliminate cheap imitations. So they want to kill humans. But before they can do that, they must first make Gojo incapable of fighting. And the second thing they have to do is get Sukuna and Yuji on their side. But he like, wait a minute, ain't Yuji dead? He's like, nah, I'm not too sure about that. And then we see Yuji and Sukuna. They're in like Sukuna's domain mine, so they're not quite dead yet. And Yuji's still mad about Sukuna tearing out his heart, tries to get revenge, but it doesn't go as planned. And then Sukuna sits on him and says he wants to make a pact. And if he agrees to it, he'll bring him back to life. And a pact is basically like a Nen contract. But if you don't know what that is, basically if they break the conditions they set, something bad's gonna happen. And Sukuna's 2 conditions are when he chants the word extension, Yuji will switch with him. And the second one is he'll forget he ever made this promise. And Yuji's like, alright, bet. And as soon as they get up, Yuji sucker punches him, saying, nah, just bring me back without conditions. You killed me in the first place. And Sukuna just says, let's fight to the death. If you win, no conditions. If I win, with conditions.
Yeah, I'll kick your ass for...
And then we cut to Gojo talking about he wants to kill all the higher ups, but they would just get replaced anyway and there wouldn't be a revolution. So that's why he became a teacher instead, to teach the next generation. We then see Shoko, and look at that, my guy Yuji's alive. And then Gojo and Yuji get to dap up distance and dap up. And then Gojo tells Shoko to leave him listed as dead so he can train him up before he gets targeted again. Because, you know, the higher ups want him dead. And then we cut back to the cafe where these guys are still having a meeting. And this guy's survival instincts start kicking in. He like, nah, something ain't right here, bro. If I go towards that table, I'm a dead man. And he says, alright boss, I quit. This is also where Kenjaku tells them they're gonna use the prison realm to seal Gojo. And then he's like, man, that table taking way too long. Let me go hurry them up. But that would be a fatal mistake because Jogo takes him out immediately. And then Jogo asking, yo, in terms of Sukuna's fingers, how strong am I? He about like, you know, around 8 fingers. Hey, at least homegirl right here survived. And then we see Megami returning the name badge of the guy who died in the juvenile center. He then returns back and they start training for the exchange event. Meanwhile, Gojo is getting ready to train Yuji. He tells him he's already pretty good at close combat. He just needs to learn how to control his cursed energy and learn more about Jujutsu. And Yuji's just happy to be getting trained by the strongest, saying I couldn't protect my friends last time. Make me strong. And then he tells him to look at the soda cans and then shows Yuji an example. He did that with cursed energy and he did that with cursed technique. And with Yuji still not understanding, he said think of cursed energy as electricity and cursed techniques as electrical appliances. Just like how raw electricity is hard to manage. That's why you run that electricity through electrical appliances and you get different and more effective results. And then he tells Yuji, yeah, being a Jujutsu sorcerer is about 80% innate talent. So basically the technique you're born with. Yuji, on the other hand, wasn't born with any cursed techniques.
I wanted to pull off a spirit gun or a bankai or a Rasengan.
But don't worry, he'll get Sukuna's techniques sooner or later. And cursed energy is all about controlling your emotions. And how's Gojo gonna train him? Yuji's gonna watch a bunch of movies. And basically the idea is if Yuji's emotions flare and he's not focused on maintaining his cursed energy, this principal's cursed corpse will attack him. And this is actually a pretty unique training arc. But well, Gojo's gotta get going. But before he leaves, he asks Yuji did he make any deals with Sukuna. Yuji says I think so, but I don't recall. That basically just calls back to when Sukuna says you will forget you ever made this promise. And so with that, Ichi's driving Gojo to have a meeting with the principal. But Gojo randomly tells him to stop here. He gets out and tells him to keep driving. And then he like, alright, you can come out now. And that man Jogo's been waiting for his moment to shine. Bro literally left a dent in the ground. He was waiting for this phase. But Jogo not with that talk and he immediately attacks him with that hot molten lava. And Jogo already feeling himself the strongest. Man, that man weak as hell. And Gojo just standing there like, who you calling weak, Brody? You miss me. But he doesn't recall seeing this special grade. But Gojo just happy he fighting somebody with a quarter of his strength. Man's just like,
Huh, maybe he dodged that first attack. He might be fast as hell. Flying mosquitoes attack!
damn, I wonder what'll happen if this attack hits me. Damn, a 2-part attack? Too bad you missed me again. But my man Jogo is not finished. He turns him into a torch and gut checks him with a cursed energy gentle palm strike. And Jogo really think he got the job finished this time. Gojo just like, listen man, let me just explain my ability to you. You just touched the infinity between us. So basically the closer he gets to him, the slower he goes. Infinitely. And Gojo talking him through it, he like, let's hold hands real quick. And gut checks that boy. Got that boy coughing up Frieza blood, but he not finished. He hits that boy with quadruple palm and roundhouse kick. Then he activates his curse technique reversal. Red. Sends this man ping-ponging through trees. Bro didn't even get to recover his iframes before Gojo was back on that ass. Man has him in a chokehold. Look! Bro so clean with it, they give him the Sasuke Sharingan effect and domes that boy to the lake. Man's is faced up right now, reminiscing like, damn, I should have listened to him, cause this man out my league. And by the time he get up, he like, wait a minute, where did he go? This man had enough time to go to Yuji, check up on him, seeing he's doing better in his training, and basically teleport back to the battlefield with him to give him an IRL lesson. That's my golden deed. And if you're wondering, wait a minute, how is he moving this fast? Basically, he's using the properties of blue on himself to decrease him and the destination to near zero. And if that doesn't make sense, he can basically just teleport. But anyway, he's like, all right, Yuji, I'm gonna teach you about domain expansions. All right, guy, do your domain expansion. All right, Yuji, basically a domain expansion is the pinnacle of Jujutsu. Basically, the barrier is created with cursed energy and then you imbue it with your cursed technique. Domain expansion. And remember when you guys were fighting that one special grade? That was a domain that wasn't imbued with a cursed technique. Also, when you're in someone's domain, you get environmental advantages and a sure hit attack, meaning your attack will always hit. But Gojo's like, don't worry, there's several ways you can deal with it. You can attack with a cursed technique of your own, or you can try going outside the domain, which is not going to work 90% of the time. But surely the most effective way is to do a domain of your own. And the more refined one, or whoever's is stronger, will win out.
Infinite void.
And he basically just brought Yuji along to show him a real life example of this. And Gojo's domain, Unlimited Void, basically gives somebody infinite information, making them not able to move. Also, this affects everyone but Gojo himself and anybody he happens to be touching. But they're touching, right guys? And Gojo immediately overpowers him but doesn't kill him so he can question him later. And then Kenjaku and Tree Dude just looking down on him like, damn, if you want to save him, it's up to you. And basically he said right there, yeah, I'm gonna go save Jogo. He a fraud, but I still got his back. So he spawns some flowers, Gojo just enjoying the scenery, and then he distracts Gojo by attacking Yuji first, so he has to save him. And by the time he looks back, yeah, they dipped out of there. But Gojo's like, man, forget about that. I want you to become strong enough so you can beat that. I'm glad I brought you here. Oh yeah, remember that meeting Gojo was supposed to be at? Yeah, he'll get there eventually. We soon cut to Genjaku walking into the Bahama Islands, and then we meet Mahito, and they proceed to talk about the plans on sealing Gojo, and basically using Jogo as an example of why not to fight Gojo.
Bicycle kick!
And then while these two are running errands, Maki and Panda have a conversation about the principal's meeting. Because Kyoto, the other school they're gonna be facing off against, their principal is also a higher up. And that was the same principal who sent Yuji on that mission to die. And then we meet Todo and Mai. Mai's Maki's younger twin sister. And they're just antagonizing them. Mai's like, aren't you glad that Yuji died? He was just a cursed monster. And Todo's like, chill out. I'm just here to see if they're worthy of replacing Yuta.
What kind of woman's your type? My type of woman's a tall one with a big gorgeous ass.
And if he doesn't like his answer, he's gonna beat him half to death. And Megami answers his question saying, I don't really have a type, as long as their character's good. But Todo was not trying to hear that answer. He starts crying and gives him a lariat. Nabara tries to check up on him, but Mai gets on her immediately. And Todo's just still crying, bro. And he's genuinely hurt, bro. He was like, I knew you looked boring, but I never judge a book by its cover, and you just trampled on my feelings.
Your head looks like a pineapple. You're about as smart as one too.
And that's probably the worst thing he could have said. He summons his frogs as support, but it's in vain. His speed is just too fast. Bro gets a hold of him and is like, man, it's too late for that. And bro slams him into the ground. And this dude Megami know he messed up. He's already bleeding from his head. Then he hits him with the, I'm right, I'm left. We even get a Broly first person shot of him putting belt to behind. He got this man inner monologuing. He knows it's over. Grabs his head and says, hold on, they about to draft me to the Cavaliers. I'm about to dunk on your ass. But before he can score a point, the frogs come in clutch. But he breaks out of them almost immediately, and Megami's like, you know what, man, it's time to summon Maharaga. But luckily he ends up getting saved by Panda and Push to talk. Also, Toja's fit kind of clean though. And then we see what Nabaro's up to. She lost to Mai. I'll let it slide though since she was unarmed. And then Maki pulls up and they just start talking trash to each other. Your fit, trash. Zero cursed energy, trash. Cursed technique, trash. You know, sisterly love.
All you can do is imbue objects with cursed energy, and you've got shit for cursed techniques.
And then while distracted, Nabara sneaks her. And then Todo pulls up and says, yeah, come on, Mai, we're leaving. I got my personal handshake with Takada. She's an idol he may or may not be obsessed with. And then they dip out of there. And then while walking, Nobara's like, I heard your sister said you had 0 cursed energy. And she's like, yup, that's right. I need these glasses to even see curses. That's also why I use cursed weapons, like the one Gojo gave to Yuji. And then that leads her to ask why even become a Jujutsu sorcerer. And she like, despite my family, I just want to see the look on their faces when I become a big shot sorcerer. Because they already see her as trash since she was born with no cursed energy. Meaning to them, yeah, she's just garbage. Damn, I can't wait till she returns home, shows them she's a big shot sorcerer, and then they live happily ever after. And then Gojo pulls up on the principal higher up like, damn, you really tried to kill Yuji? And Uselessness like, damn, watch her tone. But she really fangirling. And then he tells them about the special grades he was attacked by and says, yeah, we better lock in pretty much. And then he leaves. But you know homegirl had to get that picture though.
Oh my god, Gojo!
And then we cut to Toto, and my man's really waited in line for a handshake. Bro, come on, Toto, lock in. And then this is where we meet a new character, Junpei. You know, he gets bullied at school. He might be a school threat, but he's cool though. But he decides to go to the movies though. He gets 1 ticket for Human Earthworm 3. And then this gentleman passes him. Maybe he ordered a ticket online. And while he's watching the movie, the kids that bullied him earlier just keep on talking, so he can't really enjoy it. Side note, I like how there's just conveniently 5 people in this theater. Like, bro, come on. Then Mahito pulls up like, damn, all that yapping, you guys better learn your manners. And Junpei, after seeing this, walks up to them like, damn, what'd he do to them? And just like all school threats, instead of informing the police, let me find this wonderful man who took out my bullies. Even though there are bullies, come on, man. Anyway, he's asking Mahito, he's like, can I do that? If only he knew. Anyway, we cut to the crime scene, and this is where we meet my GOAT, Kento Nanami. Then he tells Yuji, you see the residuals left over from the cursed attack? Then he says, nah, not really, but on closer inspection, he's like, hold on, I see it. Then he's like, all right, let's follow them. And then we get a little bit of insight on how they even met. And Gojo just tells him, since I can't always help you in your training, meet Nanami. He's a grade 1 sorcerer that also happens to be a white-collared worker. And he really doesn't like either of his jobs. Moreover, they keep following the trails up to the roof. This is where they encounter 2 curses that were probably left by Mahito. Then's like, bet, I'll take this one on, you take the other one on. And my man's just explaining his curse technique to Yuji. He is not worried about these curses. Basically, his technique's called ratio technique, and he basically puts a weak point on anything while ratioing it 7-3. We also see that Yuji officially learned how to amp his fists with cursed energy. And as Gojo explains it, currently Yuji punches faster than his cursed energy. So what's that mean exactly? Basically, when he hits somebody, they gonna get a double impact. Proceeds to blow this curse's back out. And then later from my girl Shoko, we learn those were actual people. And when you destroy cursed spirits, they usually disappear. But clearly, that didn't happen here. So congratulations, Yuji. You just caught your first body. And then Mahito's giving Junpei a lesson on how curses are made and how they're made from fears, like this 9-tailed fox right here. That's also how these 3 were born. People's fear of the ocean, earth, and forest. And Mahito was born from people, like people's fears, hatred for others, you know, things like that. And then Nanami's like, all right, we got a couple areas they might be in, but I need you two to go investigate Junpei. With that cleared up, go through with your mission, boys. Then when Yuji leaves, he's like, you know exactly where they are, don't you? He's like, yep, but it might be a trap, so just go investigate Junpei. And you see, Junpei is very much still getting bullied and hanging out with Mahito. And they talk about moral rights and wrongs, and then he shows Junpei something he's been working on. This man Mahito wanted to see how large he can make a human. But it doesn't stop there. He says the one in your hand is how small I can make a human. And for context, Mahito's ability is idle transfiguration. Basically, he can reshape your soul, therefore reshaping you. Like this man is doing Jeffrey Dahmer levels of work, and Junpei is still not running. Man, but anyways, Itachi and Yuji are finally following Junpei. And the plan is simple. They're gonna throw this low-level cursed spirit at him because normal people can't see cursed spirits. So if he sees it, we're on that ass. And at the same time, Nanami enters the sewer to find Mahito. But once again, they is not with that talking and immediately start scrapping. They is dodging and weaving. They are both doing downward strike attacks. Then Nanami lands a clean blow to the face. Then rolls up on him and ratios him and hits him with a critical. And then Mahito starts monologuing about souls. But back to the plan, right? These boys done failed the plan. They didn't see the big dude he was talking to and release it too early, so Yuji had to go and catch it. So it turns out we just gonna have to do plan B. Talk to him normally. But first, Yuji gotta get rid of the big dude to question him personally. So Yuji steals his pants, so he starts running, right? But that boy Yuji already circled the whole block, bro. He's not catching up. So he's like, all right, let's go take a walk real quick. And while that's happening, these boys are still scrapping. And the thing about Mahito, like I said before, he's using transfigured humans to fight with, right? Like sometimes when he transfigures them, they die immediately, but other times they just gotta suffer. Like, look!
Please, help me.
And yet, do they know? I don't know precisely how aware they are.
Then he like, man, screw this, and starts hitting the dash. But Mahito's not letting up. He is on his tail. But my man's does not have time today, so he locks in. Then he starts explaining his technique to him. And unlike most anime, it might sound like a dumb thing to do. But basically, when you explain your technique to someone, it's a binding vow. You get stronger.
Your technique.
And then he absolutely demolishes this wall, cuts his leg off, and says, I'll mess with you, bro. Meanwhile, Yuji's questioning him like, you seen any curses at the movies? He's like, nah, but I did start seeing them recently. So he's like, well, that's all the questions I got for you, but let's wait till my boss gets here. He's like, all right. And then they talk about this lame ass movie. But then this is where we get to meet Junpei's mom, and oh my God, man, I would have been stepdad so fast because Junpei needs a father figure. But she tells them, all right, boys, let's go eat at my house. Also, to no one's surprise, Mahito survives.
Bars.
And Yuji's out here making Junpei's mom laugh. Mind you, he's supposed to be on a mission, but I can't blame him. I would have been cracking jokes too. Then after Yuji leaves and Junpei goes to bed, she wakes up to find Sukuna's finger on the table. So of course a cursed spirit was drawn to her and attacks her like, come on, bro. And bro, Mahito's over here like, yeah, you see this finger? Somebody cursed you, bro. Can you think of anybody a little gloomy that may have done this to you? Knowing damn well he's the one that placed it there. This man just awakened the school, threatened him.
Someone's gonna pay today. No one does that to my mom and gets away with it.
And the final prize for the National Book Report goes to Shota.
Oh my god, we're your biggest fans!
And that guy Mahito unleashes a veil. And the rules of this veil, basically anybody inside, they can't leave. And the only people that can enter have to have low cursed energy. And Junpei just like,
now it's time for you guys to pay. So you're the coolest guy in school, huh? All the girls love you. But more importantly, did you place that finger in my house?
Bro, nobody placed that finger in your house, bro. You tripping.
And then he just starts beating this dude, bro. But just when he's about to finish him off, that boy Yuji come to the rescue. But he also learns his curse technique, a damn jellyfish. That boy done got trained by Mahito. But Yuji not giving up that easily. These boys start boxing. But them jellyfish powers is not working. That man getting boomed. And Yuji hitting them with inspirational speeches. He's like, bro, I ate at your crib, bro. We're friends. But Junpei not trying to hear her. He like, man, these damn bullies cursed me, bro. What about my family, my village, my friends? But he calms him down. He's like, it's gonna be all right, man. We could get through this together. But then Mahito pulls up and crashes this reunion and immediately hits Yuji with an elephant gun. Then he like, Yuji, it's okay. Mahito's not a bad person. Wait a minute, now that I really think about it. But then Mahito puts his hand around his shoulder like, damn, took you long enough, bro. Then transfigures him and forces him to fight Yuji. And Yuji just starts pleading with Sukuna to help him.
Bro, I help you with the help.
And Mahito just like, damn, your own mans won't help you? That is pretty funny. And they start laughing at my guy. And then Junpei passes away. But Yuji mad now and punches him in the face. And Mahito's actually surprised that hurt him. That boy Yuji know how to soul punch. Then he proceeds to walk Mahito down. And my guy's just out for murder, bro. Each blow has a meaning to it. He's getting it back for Junpei. Then Mahito blows him out the building, but Yuji drags him with him. And then he tries using idol transfiguration on him, but he must have forgot Sukuna's soul's in there too. And Sukuna just tells him, I'll let you off the hook this time, but don't you do that again. And then Yuji starts putting the paws on him again. But Nanami like, yo, handle my light work real quick. I'm gonna go save this kid. And comes in clutch. So now that it's 2-on-1, now these boys start boxing. And Mahito releases 3 transfigured humans, and Yuji's forced to kill all of them. So technically these are his first bodies. Then Nanami tells him, alright, last lesson to be a Jujutsu sorcerer. Never give people the fair ones. And they start jumping him. And Mahito evolves. He's like, wait a minute, I can do domain expansion. And not wanting to touch Sukuna's soul again, he only uses it on Nanami. And Nanami already accepted his fate. This man's having flashbacks. Man did not even try to put up any fight. But luckily Yuji breaks into the domain. But this is where Mahito messes up, because by him doing that, he accidentally touches Sukuna's soul again. And Sukuna didn't spare any words. He instantly claps him. And then this man just pulls a cell, making himself very big, and then he escapes into the sewer. And then Nanami calls Ino. He's like, bro, all hands on deck. Go kill him right now. And then he's like, come on, we're gonna go pursue him. But Yuji passes out from his injuries. And look at this man Mahito. Of course he survived. And then when Yuji wakes up, Nanami thanks him for saving him, because if he didn't break in that domain, he would have been dead. And then we see how Junpei's school's doing. Yeah, they're just accepting they're partially to blame for his death. And with that, Yuji meets up with his teachers and vows to kill Mahito and never lose again. Later we see Mahito and his crew at a hot spring, and they're just discussing how they're gonna steal the fingers from Jujutsu High and offer them to Sukuna, and risk getting wiped out in the process. Elsewhere, Nanami and Gojo are having a conversation about Yuji returning to school. Then Yuji comes in and he's really excited to go back to school, because at this point they still think he's dead. And Gojo says, not so fast, you can't just return like that, we gotta make it a surprise. And so he's like, okay, what do I do? And Gojo's like, just go with the flow. Meanwhile, the Tokyo school guys finally meet the Kyoto school guys. And then we meet the brand new characters. Uselessness, Mekamaru, Noritoshi Kamo, Uselessness, and we also meet their counselor. Then Gojo pulls up and he gives everyone from Kyoto these charm dolls. And then for the Tokyo peeps, look guys, Yuji's alive. None of them really seem too thrilled though, except the principal. He's like, how is he alive? Of course the higher up who sent him out to die is the only one surprised. And then he apologizes to his friends he didn't tell them he was alive this whole time. So now with the Tuta Kyoto school exchange event underway, it's time to start the first day exorcism race. And basically whatever team exercises the grade 2 cursed spirit wins. But there will also be grade 3 cursed spirits released, but if no one destroys the grade 2, whoever destroys the most grade 3 wins. And there are no other rules, so they're free to sabotage each other. And then they start discussing the plan, and Maki's like, yo, hand over my blade. But we all know what happened to that blade. She's not getting that back. And then while that's happening, the higher up principal talking about some, alright guys, we finna assassinate Yuji. Some of the Kyoto kids are on board, some of them not so much. But he does tell him like, hey, make sure you kill him with cursed energy so he doesn't come back as a curse. Meanwhile, Gojo's telling her that they got a spy on campus. She talking about some impossible. For all you could know, I could be the spy. Gojo like, man, let's be for real. You too weak for that. For the record, that Kyoto school is sorry as hell.
Just give the announcement.
For the record, Tokyo, that's my school right there. Those are my guys right there. They're pretty promising. They got heavy hitters. They got Maki, Panda, Yuji, you know, push to talk. Like, my team got all valuable options. But for my Kyoto brothers, man, y'all sorry as hell, man. Y'all got Broom Dude, Blue Hair Girl, man. I ain't gonna lie, y'all ain't winning this. Anyways, let the exchange event begin. So everyone's taking off now. They run into a spider. Maki's about to handle that, but Toto comes out of nowhere. He was already trying to scrap. And basically, if they see Toto, Yuji has to take him on since he's physically the strongest. And he gives like Yuji 0 time to breathe and starts beating him to a pole. But Yuji gets back up, but before they can fight again, Toto wants to ask him a question. What kind of woman's your type?
I like a tall woman with a nice big ass. Just saying.
And bro, this man Toto starts daydreaming.
Any chance that the someone she loves is me?
Then it just cuts to this man and he's crying. Then he declares them best friends. But then out of nowhere, Broom Girl hovers over him like a UAV and calls her teammates out. And Mai immediately starts blicking. But Yuji too fast, she was not hitting him. And then this chick activates Simple Domain, but Yuji got the hops, it don't even matter. And if you really think about it, she's useless. Then they surround this man on some 7 Deadly Sins type junk. But then Toto pops up, he's like, don't interfere with my fight. And this man talking about some, we're best friends now, I can't hold back now. Then GPS Girl gets smacked out the air. So now the only thing she was useful for has come to an end. Then Noritoshi tells them to go help GPS Girl. So they split up. Then Maki starts fighting Blue Hair Girl. Then Megami takes on Noritoshi. Megami like, y'all trying to kill Yuji, aren't y'all? And then we get a flashback of them basically talking about people just see Yuji as Sukuna's vessel. And you know, valid, Sukuna's evil and stuff, but like Yuji's actually a good guy, but they don't really care about that. And that's why they were all prepared when Yuji was getting jumped. But then suddenly Nobara and Panda finally find GPS Girl.
Calm down and play.
So now basically everyone's in their own battles. But Toto, he's not even fighting Yuji anymore. He just starts training him. Bro about to learn that black flash. Then while that's happening, Panda gets sniped. And Mekamaru like, yeah, he not getting up from that. I sniped his core. Then Panda gets up like, let me stop playing, and socks him. And then we see the real Mekamaru. Yeah, long story, but bro has the worst heavenly restriction in the show. But he has crazy cursed energy, so he can control his puppets from afar. Then dude just whips out an Ultron move and starts attacking. Panda like that though. Then he starts blasting. Weaves all of that and puts him in a juggle combo. But Mekamaru done playing and blasts him with a plasma cannon. But Panda reveals that boy got 3 cores. So the one Mekamaru sniped earlier was just one of them. And it just turns into a slaughter fest. This man smacked him across the field and he landed on a roof. And then Panda fakes him out again. He was like, yeah, my core wasn't even there. Then he smacks him again, and at this point, yeah, the fight's over, bro. And Panda just de-transformed, and he was like, bro, if you want to do something else with your life, I'll help you out. Then Maki continues to fight this girl. She's losing, of course. And then she whips out a Simple Domain, right? Now, Simple Domain is a viable technique when it's used by anyone but her. Then Maki just takes her sword, bro. Yeah, she's never getting a dub in this series. At least she tried. Along with her sorry teammate who's actively losing to Nobara. But she gets bailed out by Mai, of all people, who shoots her with a rubber bullet. So Mai pulls up, and now she gotta fight her twin sister. And Mai's whole ability, right, is to create anything. But since her cursed energy is so terrible, she can only create something like a bullet, right? So her whole plan is to use the 6-shooter, and then when her opponent thinks she ran out of bullets, she gonna make another one like, ha! Got your bluff. But it doesn't matter because Maki ends up catching the bullet. And then she talking about some, why couldn't you just be a loser with me and stayed at the bottom? Maki just straight up tells her, because I would have hated myself. W big sister. W Maki, man. Elsewhere, Megami and Noritoshi continue their fight. Noritoshi's using his blood manipulation and arrows, and Megami's fighting with sticks. Bro's doing everything but using his ability to the maximum. Then Tojo, Mekamaru's phone, calls Blue Hair Girl and tells her to go to sleep. And she literally does nothing the rest of the arc. Then when Tojo turns around, he sees Tree Dude. These boys about to get attacked. We also see Mahito and Juzo. Juzo's a master craftsman and he really thinks he's gonna make Gojo into a custom coat rack. Yeah, that's not happening, buddy. And I'm not gonna lie, Megami's actually doing pretty good in this fight, but it gets interrupted, so I ain't counting that fight as a W. So these boys just start hitting the dash. They're getting out of there. And Juzo puts up a barrier technique, and that's pretty much the only valuable thing he did for real. And Gojo full halting towards the barrier. They all get there, then Gojo realizes the veil doesn't allow him inside, so he just tells them to go on without him. And the old man ends up fighting Juzo. And this man whips out a whole guitar, bruh. What kind of curse technique is this? And I was generally surprised when I first saw this. And these three are really still struggling against this guy. Like, Megami tried to call Gojo and gets the phone smacked out his hand. And then he starts hitting the Frieza pose. And these guys just keep on running. They can't catch a break. Eventually, Maki gets there and Megami summons her a special grade weapon and smacks that boy way off the roof. Eventually, we learn when one of Megami's Shikigami dies, the powers and techniques get transferred. So now he got a big dog. But it doesn't really matter. They still get bodied. Hey, but at least GPS Girl's doing something. Finally, Yuji and Todo show up to save them. Then Yuji start running the ones and Todo just straight up tells him, yo, I ain't jumping in till you land a black flash. And then when he fails to, he slaps him and says lock in. But finally, that boy lands a beautiful black flash. Then he like, it's time to hit him with that Jujutsu special. It's time to jump this dude. Because running the fair ones? Not in this economy. Then he activates that wood-style deep forest emergence, and Yuji and Todo start booming him. Man's getting beat on his own turf, so he just desummons the wood. Then it tries attacking them in midair, but they two in sync. And Todo like, you worthy of seeing my technique. So the moment he sends him flying to try to impale him, that boy Todo switches places. But not only that, Todo reveals he can swap places with objects too. Switches Itadori with Maki's weapon, and then hits them with it, but it's to no avail, bro. These boys doing 0 damage. Then he starts charging up, but just when he's about to open domain expansion, that boy Gojo come through. And he got rid of the veil. And then we see how everyone's reacting when the veil gets lifted. And then that boy Haruta, bro. He's such a problem later on. But now knowing the veil got lifted and Gojo's here, yeah, he hits the dash. And Gojo just floating in the air like, damn, who should I take out first? Man then pulls up on Juzo. Hey, you there. Then bro just leaves him mangled. Then tells the higher up, yo, we got some questions for him. Don't let him die. Then Gojo senses Hanami and immediately starts charging up purple. This man Gojo didn't even make an effort to show up on feet. He just blasted his attack and anything that happened to be in the way was just obliterated. But it doesn't even matter because Mahito completed his mission by stealing the death paintings and a Sukuna finger. And on top of that, Hanami somehow survived, but barely. But hey, I gotta give Kenjaku his credit, bro. The fact he was able to figure out Tengen's barriers to steal the fingers and the death paintings is crazy. And then he confirms, yeah, October 31st in Shibuya, yeah, we're stealing Gojo. Also, the guy they captured, yeah, he was useless. Then Gojo tells everybody, alright guys, let's start day 2 of the exchange event. You guys are still ready to continue after everything that's happened, right? So with day 2 of the exchange event underway, it's time to settle this playing baseball.
Hello, useless Miwa here.
Hey, at least she's self-aware. But to no one's surprise, Tokyo School wins, cause Kyoto is sorry as hell. Then we meet Akari, she's taking the gang on a mission. Then she explains to them people who used to go to the same junior high randomly started dying. So they go to the junior high to investigate, and we learn that Megami used to go there too. And the old man like, yeah, those deaths were caused by the Yasahachi bridge. So yeah, that bridge is definitely cursed. Meanwhile, Mahito feeds this guy a death painting in order to reincarnate them. So with that, they decide to investigate the bridge, but they don't actually find any curses there. This is where this girl shows up and she's like, oh yeah, I went to that bridge too. And there's been strange things going on. Also, your sister's been to that bridge too. Oh yeah, Megami has a sister. But anyways, so now knowing his sister's at risk of dying, this man starts tweaking. So he tells Yuji and Nabaro, yeah, this mission's way out our league, and tells them to go home, saying they'll assign other sorcerers to this mission, and says he'll go home after he says goodbye to Takeda. But he was lying though, and proceeds to go to the bridge by himself. But Yuji and Nabaro aren't that slow. They're like, aren't we a team? We're gonna do this mission together. And then they step into the curse's domain and find the cursed spirit responsible for the deaths. But wait a minute, something's not right here. The death painting Mahito incarnated's here. But not just that, the other one's here too and snatches Nabaro. And Kachizu runs after them. And Megami tells Yuji to go after them because he'll handle things here. And I actually like Megami's confidence with someone with a losing record. So with that, Yuji goes after them. So now it's a 1v1. That boy even summoned the wolf out. But he's still getting that ass beat. Then bro was just like, oh, what the hell? Activates his domain expansion. Now, I don't know what kind of domain this is, but Megami kind of moving clean with it. Hold on. This man grips him with the frogs and has the aerial attacks of the birds. But bro ain't having it. He just blows everything away. And just when he thinks shit's sweet, Megami sneaks him. And hold on. I think this is the first Megami W. Okay, I see you, bruh. Also, he retrieves the finger the curse had. And the rest of them sense that the curse that has Sukuna's finger disappeared. But they really need that finger, so bro starts bloodbending. Realizing he has the range advantage, they dip out of there. That boy Yuji going fast as hell. Thinking they got away, Yuji gets sneak attacked and drenched in another man's blood. And Nabaro gets attacked too. Then he like, it's time to reveal the real technique and activates decay. And basically the blood inside them begins to poison them and decompose them. And telling them they'll die in about 15 minutes. And Nabaro like, oh, the blood inside me is gonna make me decay, huh? That makes me the worst possible matchup for you. And she uses her straw doll residence technique on herself, threatening them to release their technique. But Yuji's still able to move because he's poison resistance being Sukuna's vessel and all. And bro, Yuji is putting the beats on this dude. And while Nobara is still using Residence, they decide to switch foes so Nobara can beat up the weaker brother. And bro, Yuji just has to be in the flow state right now, bro. What is going on? Man is meeking this man to the wall. And then they proceed to both land a beautiful black flash at the same time. But hold up, she low-key hitting that Captain Genyu pose. But it's not over yet. This dude proceeds to get back up and tries to sneak her. But Nobara's just standing there all cold and then activates hairpin. Then Esso proceeds to cry after seeing his brother literally just die. And Nobara, realizing the corpse didn't disappear, she just killed a real person. And then he hijacks someone's car in an attempt to get out of there. But it's no use because Nobara uses her technique to blow him from the back, and then Yuji proceeds to blow him from the front. And that killed him. And they just killed Yuji's brothers, by the way, if I didn't mention that. Meanwhile, Choso realizes his brothers are dead. Yeah. Rip those guys. They then meet up with Megami, and then he gives him the finger telling him not to eat it. But then Sukuna eats it. Later on, Mei recommends Panda and Maki to become first grade sorcerers. And Toto recommends Yuji, Megami, and Nobara. And that was actually a fire conclusion for a first season. And this segment set about 12 years in the past, when Gojo was just a second year in Jujutsu High. This is where we meet Gojo's best friend Geto. And he eats cursed spirits so he can use his cursed manipulation technique. Then we cut to the girls Mei and Utahime. And they're basically on a mission to investigate a cursed mansion. They finally get there and realize, yeah, this place is definitely cursed. They then start walking through an infinite hallway and come up with a plan. We're gonna run in 2 different directions as fast as we can. And doing that actually discombobulates the cursed spirit, destroying the whole building in the process. But don't worry, Gojo and Geto are here to save you.
You crying?
No, I'm not crying.
We also see a younger version of Shoko. And then they realize, yo, we forgot to put up the veil. And Gojo gets scolded for it. Later we see Gojo and Geto having a conversation on what it means to be the strongest. This is when the principal comes in and assigns them both on a mission. And the mission is simple. They just gotta escort the star plasma vessel to Tengen, so Tengen's immortality won't start to rewrite his body. But the problem is this information was leaked and there's 2 groups going after this girl. The first group is a group of cursed users called Q. And basically they don't want Tengen to get access to the star plasma vessel, so Tengen will cease to be human anymore, and that will just cause a lot of problems for Jujutsu society. And the other group is the Time Vessel Association. They basically worship Tengen as a god, and they're super religious, so they don't want anything happening to Tengen. With all that understood, it's time for these goofy goopers to start their mission.
A loaf of bread, a container of milk, and a stick of butter.
So on their way to retrieve the vessel, Geto gets to the door, but it seems they were one step ahead because they already placed the bomb there and it goes off. Geto eats that explosion though. Then Geto saves her from falling from the building, and it seems like they're under attack by Group Q. Meanwhile, another Q member starts attacking Gojo because he definitely must be new to the job. And then in a nearby building, we see 2 men talking about how the religious group doesn't have the power to fight against sorcerers. But what they do have is that bag. What about it, Zenin? You in on the assassination or what? But he corrects him and says it's Fushiguro now. As for the assassination,
but sure. Count me in on all the fun.
Now that boy is ready to kill a high schooler. We then cut back to Geto making light work of the Q members, even saying, yo, this your man's right here? We even get to see what a deadbeat does in his free time. And then he tells him he used that assassination money to put a hit on Gojo's head, because winning a fight against Gojo is unlikely, so he has to wear him down. And I'm not gonna lie, that's actually pretty smart, because we know damn well no one's strong enough to take out Gojo. So basically, he has goons working for him for free. Oh, but that reminds me, how's your son Megami doing?
Who's Megami?
Next, we're formally introduced to the vessel, Riko Emanai. And since she has no family left, she wants to spend her last day with her school friends. And now that she's at school, Toji officially sets the bounty.
Of course, they won't be able to kill the star plasma vessel, so they're working for free.
So now Gojo and Geto have to go protect her. And Geto runs into an old man, but he does not respect his senior citizens. And he beat him so bad, this man started having flashbacks. Come on, Geto, you really didn't have to beat the man this bad. Then Gojo walks into Riko's classroom and says,
ladies, I'm trying to do my work today.
Finally, Gojo decides to focus on the mission again and gets her out of there. This is when another free working goon spots Gojo and the girl. This man really think he's about to be in his bag. This is when Misato attacks the goon, but it turns out to just be a clone. This is when the same goon then attacks Gojo and gets humiliated. After defeating that guy, Riko shows Gojo that they captured the maid lady. And they're like, damn, what are we gonna do? But wait a minute, ain't we the strongest in the verse? So they skip the whole maid lady retrieval arc and they boom in there, clap some cheeks, and get her saved, and celebrate at the beach. Side note, Gojo has not been sleeping this whole time since he's stressed out about Toji's bounty. I can't blame him, cause no one's about to catch the strongest slipping. One plane flight later, they finally arrive at their destination. And now that the timer Toji put on the bounty's over, Gojo lets his guard down and turns off his infinity. But that split second is all Toji needed, because he proceeds to flash step behind this dude and sneak him. And Gojo really moving like Gaara right now. Is this how pain feels? And then Geto reacts by going on the offense. And Gojo like, hold it there, pal. You think I can't handle this? Just go take the girl to Tengen. I'll make light work of this dude and meet back up with you. And this man Toji just flexing. He cuts the curse to pieces.
The bounty on Amanai has already been taken down, you idiot.
I'm the one who took it down, you arrogant bastard.
But Gojo's not about to let this slander slide and starts attacking him. But that boy whips out the inverted spear of heaven and gets to work. Man starts hopping from tree to tree like Tarzan, thinking he can really approach Gojo head on, but Gojo does the no look stop, definitely trying to show this man, yeah, I got it like that, and sends this man flying. But Gojo then messed up doing that because now he lost sight of him, which will be a fatal mistake. And Gojo just like, you know, since you have the area advantage, I'll just destroy everything. But in the end, this man Toji summoned flies and caught Gojo in a blind spot. This dude low-key pulled a Neji, and Toji proceeds to start shanking this man, hits him with a spin kick, and then stabs him in the head. And yeah, that's how Gojo pretty much caught his first L. Meanwhile, Geto and the girls are saying their final goodbyes. And then the maid lady leaves, and then Geto's like, you know what? We actually don't have to do this. Let's just go home, be happy, and you get to live the rest of your high school life. What do you say? Take my hand. And then Toji booms her. Damn, that's actually pretty sad. But hey, Toji's in his bag now. And Geto, rightfully so, is pissed. So this man summons a whole dragon and starts attacking him. And this man is still shooting his blick. And this man comes out unscathed, standing above the rubble, really looking down on a cursed user. And this man talking about some, yeah, since I have no cursed energy, I'm able to go through any barrier. And you might be asking, how do I get my cursed tools through? I swallow my cursed spirit. And that's also why he used a normal sword to sneak Gojo. And then Geto asks him, hey, what happened to that maid lady?
She's probably dead.
Is that so? You know, I really think you should die.
So this man starts attacking him with his dragon, even shooting squids at him. But my guy Toji is just that clean. Mans is just slicing through his dragon, bro, and he's disrespectful with it. Mans even tells him, your technique is sorry.
Curse manipulation. Worthless.
And then Geto tries one more attack, but it's just hopeless at this point, bro. Toji just slices him up. And the only reason he didn't kill him here is because he didn't want to see what would happen to the curses once Geto died. Because if Geto died right there, all the curses he ever ate would just be unleashed. And then kicks him while he's down, bro. This man, Toji, man caught 3 bodies and 1 seriously wounded in the span of a couple minutes.
Both beaten by a monkey like me who can't even use cursed techniques.
So with the job finished, you know what that means. It's time to get paid, baby. They even threw in a bonus for him, bro. Shoot, he probably got enough money to buy his son back from eBay. And then he says his farewells to his accomplice and goes on to live the rest of his life. But it seems job not finished, because Gojo himself, in flesh and blood, is still alive. And Gojo looks like he's either high or off a perk. Shit, he might be off a couple Broly boosts. And then he tells him, yeah, I just learned reverse curse technique by multiplying the negative energy, which makes positive energy. But Toji's not trying to hear all that and tries doing what he did last time, running at this man, but Gojo weaves it and hits this boy with reversal. Red. But Toji actually gets more confident here, thinking he got this fight in the bag, because he thinks he knows every one of Gojo's moves. But that boy is sadly mistaken, because the honored one was yet to show him one move.
Hollow. Purple.
And turns this man into the Apple logo. And when Gojo says, does he have any last words? He finally decided to be a dad one last time and tells him, yeah, my son's getting sold off to the Zenin clan. And that's how Gojo and Megumi met. What a good student and teacher duo. Oh, and about your dad. Hey, you still got a sister, bud. And this is where things kind of go, downhill. Geto becomes racist and wants to kill people who aren't sorcerers or people with no cursed energy control at all. And then Yuki's like, nah, we probably shouldn't kill everybody. And then he adopts these 2 Sukuna victims and murders a whole village. And then he says, do you think you're the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo? Or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest? And then Jujutsu Kaisen 0 happens. And now we're finally back to present day, where we finally have our 3 musketeers hanging out. But Megumi ends up leaving. So Yuji just bugs Nobara to see Human Earthworm 3 with him. Yeah, I think Junpei was the only person that would watch that with you, buddy. And then they split off, and then we see a random girl looking at Yuji. Meanwhile, we get a flashback of the people they recommended to be grade 1 sorcerers. And Toto's like, I can't wait to mentor Yuji on these missions to see if he's fit to be grade 1 sorcerer. And Mei tells him, yeah, since you're the one that recommended him, you're not allowed to accompany him. And then that random girl from earlier starts following Nobara. She's asking her, hey, I saw you with Yuji earlier. Do you know him? And then she shows him a picture of what she used to look like and her and Yuji together. And somehow, these are the same people. And this photo was only 6 months ago. And she's telling Nobara, I kind of like Yuji though. So Nobara instantly speed dials Megumi. And she tells him, yo, Yuji doesn't have a girlfriend, right? He like, nah, I've seen his room before. This man gets 0 play. Then she asks him, do you know what his type is? And Megumi tells her he did mention he liked tall girls. So Nobara hits that boy Yuji up and somehow recognizes her immediately. But it doesn't matter anyway, because she doesn't reveal her feelings. But Nobara clutched up by giving Yuko Yuji's number. Sometime later, we cut to my girl Utahime. I remember when Gojo said there was a spy among the students. Basically, her and the rest of them are tasked with finding that spy. One of the spies is a higher up and the other one's a student from Kyoto. And since they can't do anything about the higher up, they they just decided to go after the student. And who's the spy in question? It's Mekamaru. So now these guys are in full pursuit of Mekamaru, and they finally get to where they think he's located, but it's a false hideout because the real Mekamaru is out here having a meeting with Kenjaku and Mahito, where it said Mekamaru was only working for them in exchange they heal his body. And the reason they didn't just outright kill him after getting the information is because they all agreed under a binding vow, because if Mahito just killed him right now like he wants to, he would just suffer the consequences.
You're actually lower than a scumbag, so be grateful. Idle transfiguration.
So now free of the binding vow, it's time to settle our differences right here, right now. And Mahito, you already know he's ready for the smoke. So he calls up his puppets and they start attacking Mahito. He makes light work of them though, and then looks back up like, damn, he ran away. But that boy was sadly mistaken because Mekamaru summons a whole Mechazoid. And this Mechazoid is running on 17 years of cursed energy. Man has one more flashback of his shorty, and it's time to attack. This man blasts his Mahito point blank range and just levels that whole area. But it's no use, bro. Only attacks on the soul is gonna hurt Mahito. And he's just taunting him the whole time. He's like, you're just gonna keep burning me, bro? You better hurry up and get out of there before I come in. Then Mahito hits that boy with the... Then Mekamaru like, yeah, these attacks aren't gonna work, and activates that simple domain gadget. Shoots it at Mahito, and he like, bro, you expect that to hurt me? Then when it ends up hurting him, he's like, hold on, wait a minute. But Mekamaru wasted no time and boomed him across the field. But he just reshapes his soul again and has this man running from his lasers. This man trying to dodge everything because he doesn't know which attack's gonna hurt his soul. So he just punches Mahito and is ready to finish him off. But he still got one more trick up his sleeve. He ain't used that domain expansion yet. So he activates it and immediately takes down his robot. But Mekamaru sneaks him with a simple domain attack, finally finishing off Mahito. So he's like, hell yeah, I still got 6 more years of cursed energy left. I can take on Kenjaku, and he can finally go see his girl and the rest of his friends again. But this is where we realize Mahito was faking it and only undid his domain to think he finished the job. But hey, I gotta give Mekamaru props. He kept fighting to the very end. So now that they took Mekamaru out, they dip out of there. But you know what that also means, right? It's October 31st. And the people are partying in Shibuya, baby. Hey girl, you know everybody coming to this party, right? But that's when someone puts up a veil, and then all hell breaks loose. And this veil only affects regular people, meaning regular people can't leave or come in. In short, they just trap these civilians in a fishbowl. So I mean, they got every team on deck. They like, hey yo, we need Gojo out here. And the civilians are being told by someone, hey, we can't get out of here till Satoru Gojo comes. But my guy Satoru Gojo comes on cue and pulls up to the subway station, and he already has an idea of what they're planning to do with the civilians. So you like, yeah, I'll play along, but I'm not trying to hear all that complaining when you guys lose this time. Meanwhile, we got Team Mei heading towards the train station as backup, along with her glazing little brother. And as this lady explains, there's a veil trapping all normal civilians inside, and there's another veil in that veil not letting sorcerers inside, except Gojo, I'm pretty sure. Basically, transfigured humans are funneling everyone into the yellow veil. But Yuji more worried about is Mahito down there. He trying to throw the hands. So with that out the way, they decided to enter the subway station through different entrances. This is where Yuji comes face to face with the most clever grasshopper, claps his cheeks, and Mei broke the barrier preventing sorcerers from entering. So they all reunite and continue heading down the subway station. And when they get there, they notice there's only one person left. Elsewhere, Hanami closes off the exit points, and Gojo's telling them, yo, I ain't gonna run, you don't need to do all that. And he tells them, I bet if I even tried to run, you would just kill everybody down here. And Jogo tells him, run or not, people still gonna die. Gojo then realizes they only sealed off the exits, so he wouldn't know if there's people behind there or not. Then Jogo and Hanami just start murking people. Then Chozo tries to distract Gojo with blood manipulation, just so they can try to land their attack with domain amplification. And domain amplification is basically just a barrier that neutralizes attacks, so they can hit Gojo, but it doesn't work because it's Gojo. So he got these boys just looking stupid. And Gojo's just focusing on defense so he doesn't kill anyone. And he can't end it with domain expansion because that would kill people. So he takes the blindfold off. That boy about to lock in. Points at Hanami and says, hey, weed dude, you underestimate the hell out of me. I'm gonna take you out first. And he proceeds to walk Hanami down. Seeing this, Jogo tries to interfere, so he proceeds to take Jogo's arm and block an attack with it, then sends Hanami flying, ragdolls Jogo, and for some reason Hanami's getting confident. Oh, he turned off his infinity? Bet I can use my curse technique. And Gojo, seeing this, actually looks happy. Man's dodging through their attacks like nothing, then pulls out their tree vines. And let me tell you, these guys are persistent. They did not learn from last time. They're trying the same thing again, still trying to do that domain amplification punch, but Gojo just turns it on them and literally walks down Hanami to death. Jogo out here trying trying to get his attention, but he does not care. Then turns around and says, next. And then we get a flashback of basically them talking about how they're gonna seal Gojo in the prison realm. Only problem is they kinda need Gojo to stay still for a full minute. It's Gojo, so that's pretty much impossible. And now this man Jogo is just running, bro. Oh, brother. We then cut back to Yuji, and remember the only person that was down there? Yeah, that person turned out to be a Mahito victim. Soon a train arrives, right? And these people talking about, we're saved! But no, on that train was a bunch of transfigured humans. By yours truly, Mahito, who also joins the battle now. And Jogo tells Mahito, yeah, he killed Hanami. Then immediately tries to attack him to no avail. Then when Hanami's wood breaks, humans just start falling, and these boys start going on a rampage. They're like, yeah, you're conflicted. You will only accept if we're the ones doing the killing. So you're not gonna open that domain expansion. They trying to discombobulate this dude, bro. Yeah, these boys are doing everything in their power to wear Gojo down. But that boy Gojo does it. He opens that domain expansion. But the thing is, he only opened it for 0.2 of a second. And he did that just so it wouldn't cause damage to the civilians. And in that time, this man Gojo managed to wipe out over 1,000 transfigured humans. GOAT status indeed. But this is where everything goes wrong. He sees a box on the ground, and then it opens up and starts looking at him. He takes a step back, only to turn around and see a familiar face. He just seen his old best friend.
Long time no see.
And this man Kenjaku's doing him so dirty. He's trying to butter him up. And then that's when the memories start flowing in. Yeah, it's GG's, man. Because before you know it, that minute they needed Gojo in that perimeter for is up. And the prison room restrains Gojo. Gojo already knows it's checkmate. He's just like, just who the hell are you? Then he does the iconic meme, I'm Kenjaku, a body hopper. And yeah, they seal that boy Gojo. He's chilling though. This is also where Mekamaru comes into play and tells them Gojo has been sealed. He also tells them he was killed by Mahito and tells them there's a curse user heading their way to kill them. This is where he tells Yuji to return to the surface and tell everybody that Gojo's been sealed, and tells Mei to handle the curse users. Then we got Jake the dog and Finn the human pulling up. Meanwhile, the three of them finally wake up from being hit by unlimited void, and that boy Gojo's still fighting back. And then we see all the teams together. Nanami tells his guys to go save civilians and he will handle the Veil users. And Ichichi's trying to create a plan where they can all communicate, since the Veil is blocking cell phone reception. And then Haruto sneaks up on him and stabs him multiple times. Yeah, he just kind of loves doing that this arc. And then Mekamaru tells him, hey, good news, they can't move Gojo right now. Why?
Because he's Satoru Gojo.
And then after defeating some transfigured humans, he finally gets on top of the building and screams, yo, Gojo been sealed. Elsewhere, they realize they know what they're doing now since Mekamaru's seen them. So Kenjaku's like, hey, I'ma stay here, but what are you guys gonna do? Chozo wants to kill Yuji and Nabara for killing his brothers. Jogo wants to turn Yuji into Sukuna. And Mahito just wants to kill Yuji for the love of the game. So they all get into an argument about it, and they just agree that whoever finds them first gets to do what they want with them. And we also see Mimiko and Nanako hiding among the crowd. And they hate Kenjaku since he stole Geto's body. So they're like, hey, we did everything you asked, now give him back. And he tells them, next time you make a deal with a sorcerer, make sure it's a binding vow. And he tells them to go away or else he'll off them. And the girls just leave, telling him he'll regret this. Meanwhile, they find Yuji on the roof and tell him to stop yelling. And then Mekamaru updates them about the situation. And Nanami says he's gonna go take care of some stuff at Ichichi, and he wants them to deal with the Veil keeping sorcerers out. And he tells Ino update any sorcerers he sees about the situation and to take care of these two. And then as soon as Nanami leaves, he's like, look, losing Gojo causes two problems: the collapse of the Gojo clan and the collapse of the power balance. Meaning all the cursed users and cursed spirits that were in hiding because of Gojo, yeah, those boys are about to start wreaking havoc. So literally Gojo not being present just causes a collapse of Jujutsu society. This man basically has the All Might effect. So with that, it's time to take down the Veil and save Satoru Gojo. So the first thing they do is go to the Veil, and Yuji tries punching it. Obviously this doesn't work, and they realize this Veil is stronger than normal because of a binding vow. So essentially they put the pins to the Veil somewhere obvious to make it stronger. So they come to the conclusion, yeah, it's definitely on top of that skyscraper. So we got Kenjaku's bummy bodyguards out here. They're like, hey, they're definitely not getting up here because below us there's a bunch of transfigured humans. They're not touching us up here. And immediately after get wired up by Megami and Yuji. Then Ino finds and kicks one of the pins and realizes the other two are with Jiro. So with that, Ino starts their battle with the grandma and her grandson, and Yuji and Megami take on Mustache Man. And these guys are having flashbacks, right, when they used to be assassins. And these guys went into retirement from being assassins because of Gojo. And a kid Gojo at that. He put these old folks out the game. That's how world changing this man's birth was. And then we cut back to the fight, and they basically just throwing every attack they got at him. But this dude's taking 0 damage. Then they finally figure out his curse technique. The harder you hit him, the less damage he takes. And the lighter you hit him, the more damage he takes. Knowing this, they proceed to clap his cheeks. Meanwhile, Ino's engaging in combat with the grandson, and Granny in the back using her curse technique to transform her grandson. She trying to turn this man into Toji so he can use his immense physical strength. Eventually, he turns into Toji, and the grandson uses his body to beat up Ino. Man's really had to whip out Toji's body for that dub. Eventually, Nanami finds Ichichi's body laid out, but don't worry, he's not dead. Later, we see Mei walking down Finn and Jake. Yeah, it's GG's for those guys. Then Ino gets hurled off a building building, but Megami saves him. And this is when Toji just takes control of his body back. He like, you ordering me to kill sorcerers? Aren't you one? So he just takes out the granny. Then Megami says he's gonna take Ino outside the veil, and Yuji says he'll head towards the station. Next, we got our girl Maki taking out the transfigured humans. And she tells Nobara and Akari, since we have no cell phone service, head towards Ijichi.
Ignore him.
And while heading there, they realize all the assistant supervisors have been taken out. This man Haruta is really becoming a problem. So she tells Akari to run, but it's no use because his sword literally starts chasing her and slices the back of her feet. So now Nobara and him start scrapping. She even tries to do an aerial attack, but it fails, and the sword punches her. And Akari even tries running, but this man ruthless with it. This is when my boy Nanami pulls up and starts putting belt to his head. Man hits this dude point blank, sends him flying. And he like, how many allies do you have and where are they located? He says, I don't know, but Nanami's not trying to hear that and gut checks him. And then he tries to sneak him with the sword, but Nobara got his 6. Picks him up by the neck and says, I found several of our supervisors dead. That was you, wasn't it?
I'm sorry.
And while they're doing that, Mei finally confronts Kenjaku. And he's like, here, take on this cursed spirit. If you take it out, you can take me on next. Meanwhile, Nanami's telling the girls that Idichi will be fine and tells them to stay here as he goes with Team Zenin. And Nobara said, I'm coming too, but he said, no, you ain't. You're not grade 1 level. You stay put. And then we got Yuji here deciding either to go towards the station or handle these transfigured humans. Cause you know Yuji ain't just gonna let these people die, but he does have to save Gojo. But then we see Push-to-Talk coming in clutch and gives Yuji the okay, I'll handle this. So Yuji just keeps making his way down to the station. This is when he runs into Chozo and he like, ah, hell nah, I'm gonna get it back in blood from my brothers. And he barely gave Yuji enough time to land before he started attacking him. Man's hitting him with that piercing blood. And clearly he has the advantage right now, so he starts hiding and talking to Mekamaru. So Mekamaru tells him, hey, run into that bathroom and make the sprinklers go off. And Chozo was about to play it smart until Mekamaru started instigating.
What's wrong? Not coming? You're a coward, huh? Just like your brothers.
So now with that rage bait tactic successful, that boy Yuji tries to sneak him. And now with the water going off, he can't fully utilize his blood manipulation to the max. And this is when the showdown happened. These boys start throwing haymakers. But eventually, Yuji gets his cheese club. And then he goes in for a finishing blow. And then randomly, the memories start flowing in. This man's going crazy. He like, am I about to slime my brother? Meanwhile, we got Mei fighting Kenjaku's cursed spirit. She figures out the pattern the cursed spirit is using to attack her. And then uses her brother as a distraction so she can clap those cheeks. Using her kamikaze bird strike, and no human's able to survive that.
With the sole exception of Satoru Gojo, of course.
Later on, we see that Nanami finally met up with Team Zenin, and they run into the octopod Dagon. And old man Zenin uses his technique to catch it off guard. And this man pissed that they killed Hanami. So this man does a whole transformation from his cursed womb state. And Nabito just keeps spamming his technique. And his technique is to split 1 second into 24 frames. If he doesn't, he will freeze. And when he touches somebody, they also have to move 24 frames in a second, or they'll freeze. And with this technique, that makes him the fastest sorcerer.
Aside from Satoru Gojo, of course.
But he had enough of this. This man activates his domain expansion, and now they're all getting hit with his sure hit attack. Nabito activates something similar to a simple domain. This man just starts wreaking havoc. This man basically starts eating Nanami alive, and then he kicks my girl Maki to the side like she's nothing. Even the old man's getting ragdolled, but my girl Maki walking it off like it's nothing.
Octo bitch.
And just when he gonna finish her off, that boy Megami come through and then summons the special grade weapon for her. This man Dagon think he really got it like that. He tried to do the no look block and gets punished for it. And Maki really being stylish with it. That's best girl right there. And now that Megami's doing a domain of his own, his sure hit attack is gone. So he's just like, damn, I'll just attack you first. But Nanami come out of nowhere and slices all the fish in half. That man just survived being eaten alive, by the way. That's crazy. Then old man Zenin and Maki come with the support. This is when Megami tells Nanami he thinks we're fighting for control right now. But nah, I'm trying to bust out of here, bro. Tell everybody else the plan. Cause since it's not Gojo or somebody with ridiculous cursed energy, they only doing 1 domain a day. So Nanami screams at everybody to come here now. But to everybody's surprise, this is when the man who left it all behind appears. Toji Zenin has joined the battle. And this is where the fight turns from winnable for Dagon to a one-sided slaughter. Toji starts off by straight up just snatching Maki's weapon. Dagon like, man, this man got 0 cursed energy. It's not worth my attention. But in that instant, this man Toji created a whirlpool, blew his fish away, and started clapping cheeks. Man's is doing cross-up spin arounds. Man even spit out a fish, bro. Come on, he the real predator. And this man Dagon starts doing what every villain does when they're losing. Start spamming moves. Cause this man proceeds to drag him underwater, call piranha-like fish to eat him alive, but he's not done yet. This man calls the cockroaches of the sea to eat him while he's being eaten alive. But Toji just shrugs all of this off with no visible damage and shows this cockroach who the real goat of the sea is. But now, this is where Toji is ready to secure his kill. he starts sharpening his weapon. Man's is taking a couple pages out the Tarzan books. He getting greedy. And Octo dude like, oh, this dude too strong, bro. I gotta buy some more time. But old man Zenin catches him slacking in the air. Then Toji does an Olympic jump towards this man. I know Toji would do great in the Olympics. And yeah, I don't even think I need to explain what Toji proceeds to do after this. Bro, we just witnessed a massacre, bro. And wasting no time, this man finally decides to become a father and fights his son. And Jogo show up like, damn, Toji gone? Oh, I can mourn his death now. But what Jogo proceeds to do is kind of clean. I'm not gonna lie. Because he flash steps towards Nanami and says, first one down. Immediately after, pulling a no-look attack, does the same thing to Maki, saying second one down. Hey, not too much disrespect though on Maki. Hey, but Nabito smart with it. This man decides to run. Gets clapped anyway. Third one down. Then suddenly he senses Sukuna. Bro, these girls are feeding him Sukuna's fingers. No way you want Geto's dead body back, bro. He's already dead, bro. It can't be this serious. Jogo comes halting towards their location. He like, yo, how many fingers did you just feed him? They not trying to tell him though, so he just burns them. And then Jogo proceeds to feed him 10 more fingers. So now Yuji ate a total of 15 fingers up to this point. Also, those girls managed to survive being attacked. And Jogo's about to attack them again, only to see his arms gone. Because the King of Curses has just awoken. He gives Jogo 1 second to remove his filthy hands off him. And he just starts walking towards them, hasn't even done anything. They're already sweating bricks. And he tells the girls, you wanted to speak to me? Go ahead, speak. And they're like, hey, if you kill the guy with stitches around his forehead, we'll tell you the location of a finger. Then he tells them to raise their heads and murks one of them immediately. He like, you think just because you know the location of a finger, you're gonna order me around? How insulting. And she tries to follow up with an attack only to be cut to literal shreds. Then he turns to the cursed spirit, says, all right, what do you want? He like, nah, Lord Sukuna, we just wanted to bring you back. Then he says, as a token to my appreciation for the fingers, if you land one blow on me, I'll work under you for the time being. And bro, look how respectful Jogo's being right now.
You'll be true to your word?
And while this is happening, Megami is finally getting that father and son bonding time. And then he summons a bunch of rabbits and starts hitting the dash. But Toji's just too fast. He's even countering all his attacks with one hand. But the out of wind rabbits are not giving up that easily. But Toji, being stylish as ever, stomps the ground and sends all that debris flying, taking out all the rabbits. Next, we got Panda and Mr. Feetless over here. They're saving civilians and whatnot, right? Man, I just wanted to say, bro, Panda gotta be the cutest character, bro. He's for sure in my top 10 characters, man. Just look at him, bro. He's like a big dog. And then they run into these guys. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know who these guys are. So back to Toji bonding with his son. He finally gets a closer look at his face and realizes, hold on, this just might be my son I'm fighting. What's your name, kid? Fushiguro, not Zenin? Well, that makes me happy. And then offs himself. And the guy that tried to take control of his body. So that's like a 2-for-1. That's a double kill. But hey, a win's a win, Megami, man. You got this. But he doesn't even get to celebrate because he gets snuck by Haruto. This man is a professional sneaker, bro, I swear. Elsewhere, Jogo's still trying to land a blow on Sukuna. Like, Jogo's throwing everything he has at this man, and this man still has his hands in his pockets. But they might as well call off the deal at this point. This man literally smushed him between 2 skyscrapers, and this man is doing the T-pose. Grabs his head and slams him through the whole building. And Jogo just trying to keep his jaw from falling off.
The moonlight's illumination makes it easier to see how pathetic you are.
And now he about to give this last attack everything he got, and Sukuna's just moonwalking. Then he drops a whole meteor, and these guys still here. They're like, nah, we gotta get out of here. Sukuna stops them and says, nah, nobody moving nowhere until I say go. And with little time left before it hit, Sukuna still managed to dodge it anyway. And he's like, man, just activate your domain expansion. Nah, I already know I'm gonna lose a domain clash with you, just like Gojo, spoken like a true loser. So he tells him, all right then, I'll just beat you with your own specialty. Yeah, and we already know Jogo lost because he's having a flashback, but stand proud, you can read. And yeah, there goes Jogo. He doesn't get a rip though, this man had to go. Then Urame and Sukuna finally reunite. Then elsewhere in Shibuya, we got Megami trying to summon Maharaga because he got shanked. And right after he does, he gets slapped to the side. And Maharaga takes this guy out immediately. But Sukuna ends up saving him, only because if Maharaga were to kill Haruta, the ritual will be complete and Megami would just die. Side note, this dude's only still alive because his technique just gives him multiple lives essentially. So now with all that understood, these boys start boxing. And Sukuna just thrilled he can see his curse technique. And Maharaga's just trying to adapt to everything Sukuna's throwing at him. This man Sukuna did a feint and this man just started shadow boxing the rest of the fight. He even threw a couple feints of his own. Man's whole game plan is if you cut off a limb, it's just gonna go flying in your direction. So Sukuna's game plan is, oh, you can adapt to everything? So I'm just gonna take you out before you even have a chance to adapt.
malevolent shrine.
And Sukuna's in the kitchen now, man. He's cutting him up, and then he pull out the flames, man. It's time to get to cooking. Then he just obliterates Maharaga. Yup, that's how Sukuna corrupted the divine. But he's not done yet, because he finally takes out this guy, bro. Thank goodness. Arda had to go, man. This is what he gets, man. He could have been ran away. Then he drops off Megami with the principal. And then finally, Yuji's able to gain control again. And then all the memories start flooding in and Yuji just loses it. And then he tells himself, nah, I have to keep on fighting. Otherwise, I'll just be a murderer. He makes his way down the station. Elsewhere, the goat Nanami was actually able to survive, though half his body's burned, but he continues to push the agenda. And Mahito chillin' actually sees him walking. Dude literally has nothing else better to do. And then he starts clapping the cheeks of the transfigured humans. While there's a cinematic of him at the beach playing. This man truly just wanted a peaceful life. What a guy. But all this commotion gets the attention of Yuji, who runs over there. But it's already too late because Mahito made it first. And man's really just having flashbacks of his old friend from high school, man. Then he turns around and tells Yuji,
"You take it from here."
And Mahito just booms him, bro. Rip Nanami, man. So Yuji cuts straight to yelling, but Mahito's just mocking him. He really think this is a game, and with that, they gotta start boxing. So Yuji runs full speed ahead, but Mahito blocks the path with a transfigured human wall, causing Yuji to hesitate. But that just causes Mahito to go on the offensive. Then he attacks him with this giant worm-like creature, pops out of his mouth, and still just starts taunting him. Punches him so hard, this man is spinning through the air, but Yuji lands a beautiful recovery. And now Yuji got that iconic scar. And by the way, when Mahito punched him, this man had a blade attached. Then sends the giant earthworm towards him and gets him with the blade again. And Yuji just asking him, how can you play with people's lives like they're nothing? And Mahito responds by turning his hand into Junpei and stabbing it, saying, you are me. And until you accept that fact, you will never really be able to beat me. And then Yuji, like Nanami, would never lose his cool. So he calms down and they start walking each other down. And Mahito is just ready to touch something. Stop touching people with your hands. Then they bust out the worm at the same time and they ready for round 2. And Mahito cuts straight to Blicken, even trying to stomp him out. And then he pulls a All Might. And then while Yuji's in the elevator, Mahito tries to attack from above, but he sends it back, sending the elevator in a downward spiral. And then this man tries to kiss him. Bro, there's just so much going on in this fight, bro. And then Yuji runs into these civilians. He's like, guys, get out of here. But these are also Mahito victims. And then turns this guy into a sword. I don't think there's a place on earth you can lock this man up. Arkham Asylum is not harsh enough for this man. And remember way back when these guys were having a challenge to see who could find Yuji first? Because Mahito actually split himself in two just so he can have the advantage. And that same clone encountered Nobara, who previously left Akari at the ambulance and started heading towards the station, which Nanami told her not to do. But hey, it's whatever, because Nobara got that dog in her. And when Nobara hits her with her technique, it's actually able to damage his soul. And then she realizes the one she's fighting is just a clone. This one can't even use his real techniques. And Nobara also senses the real one back at the station. And since Nobara's attack was able to hurt the real one too, Yuji takes full advantage of this and lands a wombo combo on him. And the one Nobara's fighting just starts running. And the one Yuji is fighting starts running too in the same direction of the other clone. And they run past each other, not even giving Nobara enough time to react. And the real one is actually able to touch her. And you know it's over because she has a flashback with Saori and she currently works a little office job. You know, she looking good. And then she looks at Yuji and says, tell everyone for me.
Life wasn't so bad.
And yeah, that's how Nobara went out. And Yuji's just mentally going through it right now. He just seen his teacher and classmate die in front of him. And Mahito, just being Mahito, runs towards him and hits him with a point blank black flash. Then while he's in midair, grabs him again and slams him against the wall. He's calling him an idiot, naive, everything in the book, while just constantly beating him. Saying, just like how I kill people without a second thought, you save people without a second thought. We're mere opposites. You are me and I am you. And for Yuji, it probably doesn't even hurt anymore because he's just mentally gone. And then Mahito says, when I'm done killing you, I'm not even gonna remember who you were. But this is when my guy Toto last second swaps him out of there, coming in clutch. Mahito even tries to attack, but he just smacks him aside. He motivates Yuji back on his feet, and then this guy comes through and basically applies the technique so his wounds that already exist don't get any worse. And then that boy runs off. So you know what that means. It's time for these boys to run the generational phase. So they both run towards each other and Toji just keeps swapping places. My guy is like that. Mahito tries to sneak and fails. That's when Yuji comes in perfect time and lands a magnificent black flash. But that was just the warm-up because these boys are now ready for the grand beatdown. Tells his brother, welcome back. We're about to put Naruto and Sasuke's teamwork to to shame real quick. Mahito starts off by swinging transfigured mallets around, swaps with the rocks in the air, and then Yuji changes the battlefield area real quick. Man is running around, making duplicates trying to attack him. Man, Mahito's doing anything. Then he just summons a big earthworm, so they start halting out of there. And then while chasing them, this man's just using literal humans as weapons. And then when he tries to attack Toto, he thinks he got it like that, but Toto is too clean with it and meeks him to the elevator. And that boy start going up the elevator, so they hit the stairs. And then he passes Yuji this rock, right? And he yeets it. And he's like, both the cursed spirit and Yuji already landed black flashes. I'm low-key being left behind here. So this man Toto starts doing the most beautiful thing I have seen in this fight. This man is hitting the T-pose, floating through space to hit the most devious black flash. But as clean as that move was, it doesn't even matter. He can't hit his soul, so it doesn't even hurt Mahito. But he's putting in crazy work as an assist. It doesn't even matter if that didn't hurt him. And now that they all hit black flashes, they're drawing out 120% of their combined latent potential. All these boys in the flow state. Meanwhile, we got Mekamaru talking to his girl and the rest of his crew.
Now listen, I might be dead, but I want y'all to know from the bottom of my heart, you guys are trash. I never used your guys' name for a reason. Kasumi Miwa, you are trash. Momo Nishimiya, you are trash. Mai Zenin, you are trash. And Naruto Shikamo, you are decent. You are just a worse Chozo. Utohime, you get a pass. Please do not come near Shibuya. Do not embarrass my legacy, bro. I'm already clutching up enough because all you guys are just gonna put in straight cardio.
So they finally bring the fight outside, and then Mahito says this is the last time we're gonna curse each other, and proceeds to detach his head and lets his body start fighting for him, and also makes a new transfigured human, and it sends Toji flying through the building. But Toji like that, he one-shots it and continues fighting the rest of them. So now it's a 1v1 with Yuji again, and he's just spamming all his transfigured humans, then tosses that boy to the wasteland. But Toji there standing on business, he like, damn, you forgot about me? And Mahito thinking if I activate my domain expansion, Sukuna's gonna kill me immediately. So he takes a chapter out of Gojo's book and activates a 0.2 second domain expansion, and Toto activates a simple domain as Yuji runs towards him. And then he just looking at Sukuna like, yeah, I'ma kill that boy Yuji. And Toto ends up getting hit, but he chops his hand off, and Mahito runs in and hits him with a black flash. But he's able to survive by pouring all his cursed energy into his stomach. And then Mahito tries to finish the job, but Toto randomly locks in and starts fighting with his idol. And then he slaps Mahito's hand to activate a swap. And then Yuji hits him with a black flash to the face. And now Toto out of commission, man, but he was locked that whole time. So now these boys back to 1v1. But then Mahito taps into his true form. This guy turned into a giant lizard. And then he just goes on a yap spree talking about this is the true essence of my soul. And then they run towards each other and he just starts tearing Yuji apart. Yuji just keeps hitting him, but it's not even doing nothing for real. And then he just gives Yuji another iconic scar, sends him flying, grabs his head, and smashes his head underground. But now these boys about to have their final showdown. Yuji hits his leg back into place and they run at each other with their final attacks. Mahito undoes his armor as bait for a counterattack, and meanwhile Toto appears back and he bluffs a boogie woogie. And Mahito was shook. He was like, wait, I ain't switched places. And that gave Yuji enough time to boom him. Man's hit the last black flash of the battle. Look at Mahito. He realizes he's also out of transfigured humans. Look at him. And Yuji's just like, you're right. I am you, because I'm gonna keep killing curses. I'm gonna keep killing you over and over again. Just look how pathetic Mahito is now. And then Kajaku appears and Yuji's like, give Gojo back, but he just handles Yuji. Then Mahito tries to sneak him only to get absorbed. Then he just eats him, killing Mahito. This is a fitting end for him though. But don't worry, the Kyoto school is here to put in straight cardio. Mai even tries to snipe him to no avail. She barely got cursed energy and he still sensed that shot coming. And then the blue hair girl talking about some, I'ma put everything I can into this sword swing, only to have her sword get caught, broken, and then he just blows everything up. This is when Chozo appears, right? And he's like, you liar, you tried to make me kill my brother. You've been toying with my entire family. Kajaku just looks at him like, took you long enough. And then he just immediately fires piercing blood. Urame is barely able to block it. And then everybody just proceeds to try and jump them, but she just freezes everybody in place. And then she tries to finish off Chozo, but Yuji interrupts. And Yuji's like, listen, are you our ally?
I'm not. Huh? I am your older brother.
Are you serious, my brother?
And then one of the Kyoto students try to attack, but we know that's not gonna do anything. And Urame just had enough of this. She tries to kill everyone except Yuji. But Yuki appears last minute just to ask for Kenjaku's type.
I was wondering what type of women you go for.
Desi, I'm drip.
And Kenjaku finally decides to do his master plan where he's gonna use idol transfiguration across all of Japan. And this basically did two things. The first thing it did is activated people's curse technique across all of Japan who couldn't use their technique because of their underdeveloped brains. So basically people like Junpei. And the second thing he did was basically give people random cursed objects so ancient sorcerers can be reincarnated in their bodies, basically killing them. And now with these two types of people, it's time to make a battle royale. But he's not done yet because he uses curse manipulation to unleash millions of cursed spirits across Japan. But before he leaves, he makes sure to show them that prison realm because come pick your mans up, Yuji. And yeah, the world is now pretty much in disarray.
What's on the TV?
Some movie.
Come here, little girl. We have cookies.
It's like you thought I need me a meal.
And now Yuta finally decides to make his appearance by saving this little girl. This is when Yuta gets called in by the higher ups and is ordered to kill Yuji Itadori. And he's like, yeah, I'm up for it. He's the one that cut off Push to Talk dude's arms. Technically Sukuna did it in his domain expansion in Yuji's body, but yeah. But to make positively sure Yuta follows through with killing Yuji, they make a binding vow. Meanwhile, we meet the zenins. We have Naoya Zenin, who thinks he's gonna be the next head of the clan, along with Maki's dad and Toji's brother. And this is where the old guy comes in and informs them Nabito Zenin has just taken his last breath. You know, the guy who fought the squid and got burned by Jogo. And then he reads his will that says Naoya Zenin will be the next head of the clan. But if Gojo dies or is incapacitated, Megami will be the next head of the Zenin clan, because we gotta keep that 10 shadow technique in the bloodline. And since Gojo's in the prison realm, that means Megami is the next head of the Zenin clan. But Naoya's not trying to hear all that. He's asking the lady, where's Megami? She tells him, oh, he's looking for Yuji. So he just decides, I'm gonna kill them both. So now he has two people that want him dead. And Yuji during all this is chilling with Chozo. And they're just going around trying to reduce the number of cursed spirits. Eventually, Naoya finds Yuji, but he's confused because he does not see Megami. He's like, oh yeah, aren't you sentenced to death? What are you doing out here? You no longer have Gojo's protection. And he immediately starts clapping cheeks and then memes on Chozo. And this is when Yuta finally shows up like, what's going on here? And he's like, hey, we both want Yuji dead, right? And he's like, all right then, you go fight his brother then. And Yuji immediately starts running, but he's on his tail. And then they just start scrapping, even killing a cursed spirit in the process. But Yuji's just dodging and weaving. And then this man Yuta proceeds to step on his cursed energy to propel him forward. And then he starts telling him, yeah, I got more cursed energy than Gojo. But he has the 6th eye, so he practically doesn't waste any at all. Then Yuji just whips out his pocket knife and they break each other's weapons. But Yuta just wraps the fight up. He brings out his Shikigami and then he stabs him through the heart. And then we cut back to Chozo, who's low-key getting his cheeks clapped. But don't worry, he still has an ace card. He pulls out a blood tsunami and is about to start clapping his cheeks, only to get third party by Yuta. And then Yuta reveals, yeah, I'm not a bad guy. I just had to kill you for a second there because of the binding vow I had with the higher ups. But don't worry, I know reverse curse technique, so you're all good. And then Megami and Chozo come out, and this is where we first hear the calling games. And Megami like, my sister gotta participate in that game too. You gotta help me. And then they show us the basic calling game rules, if you care to read that. And they also talk about the prison realm Gojo was sealed in, and that they need to find Tengen to ask him how to release Gojo and to ask him more about the calling games. But before that, the gang gotta reunite. You know Yuta gotta go see his girl. Then they set off to go to Tengen. They then meet Tengen, find out some ways to free Gojo, 2 of them which are destroyed, but don't worry, we have Angel Girl. And then they basically go over the rules of the calling game. Am I gonna sit and explain it? No. But what you do need to know is that Yuki and Chozo have to stay behind to protect her, so Kenjaku can't just absorb her so easily. And now Maki needs to return home so she can open that hidden vault and get those cursed tools so they can prepare for the calling games. To where we get this beautiful shot of Maki returning home, where we get a flashback of a conversation she had with Megami, basically saying he should become head of the Zenin clan. And when Megami asks why she can't do it, she says they wouldn't accept her and she can't create a place for Mai. So Maki continues her walk where she passes her mom, who yells at her to not go, and she opens the vault only to find her father and her sister laid out. And he's like, you know why they didn't choose me to be head of the Zenin clan and instead chose Nabito?
I'm guessing because you're an asshole who would murder his own children.
But Maki's slick with it. She not gonna take that disrespect, so they start scrapping. He's able to best her in combat though, and keep in mind, this is their father, by the way. He proceeds to drag their dying bodies into a room filled with cursed spirits, throws them down there saying, you guys are a disgrace, and the cursed spirits in this room are about to devour you when I leave. Mai still has enough strength though to crawl towards Maki, and Mai basically tells Maki to destroy all of it. Everything gotta go, Maki. every single thing. But before I die, I'm going to use the rest of my cursed energy to craft you a weapon. So now with my dead, Maki has basically became fully realized. So basically her heavenly restriction is on Toji's level now. And her dad senses something ain't right. This man's getting prepared to attack. But before he can even realize, Maki already speed blitzed him. Looks at her sword and is like, all right, Mai, let's get it done. Meanwhile, the zenins are like, hey yo, she just murdered Ogi. So they send these sorry foot soldiers after her. But Maki is not phased. She proceeds to do a Kill Bill on every single soldier. She was out here skating on blood, 1-inch punching people, and sent her bone sword flying through everyone. And as soon as she's done handling these guys, she is immediately attacked again. Got this dude right here, and the guys who call themselves the Hay. And they're basically just grade 1 sorcerer level. Then immediately after, Maki engages in combat with this guy. And then they're flying through the air, and Maki's just chilling. Then he sends a bunch of projectiles towards her, but it doesn't even matter, because she's putting the pressure on this man, takes his throw, then his own sword spins back to boom him in the head. But it's not over, because she's immediately attacked by paralyzing gaze. And she's supposed to be stuck in place, but she's just walking through it. This is where Toji's fraud brother slowly decides to walk up to her and throw a whole Deku smash at her. And the real sad part was, this man died thinking he won because she walks past with his head and throws it in the lake. And now Yuya seeing this, he like, how heartless. But he's about to get done the same way. Man's out here throwing her through mountains and whatnot, punching her hundreds of times, but they ain't doing no lasting damage. But eventually Maki just figures out the timing and booms him in one shot. But there's still a few more things Maki has left to do. She starts off by booming her mom, who then later goes on to finish off Nayuya, takes her sister to Broom Girl, and then proceeds to basically boom the rest of the Zenin clan that were not present that day, to where we get this beautiful shot of Maki leaving home. We then cut to the principal and his relationships with making Cursed Corpse, which the higher ups do not like because he won't explain how it works. So they kill him. Poor Panda. And Yuji and Megami are trying to recruit a student that got expelled because he's very strong. So they join this fight club, which Panda's in for reasons I forgot, to impress Hakari, and then he calls Yuji to his office. You don't happen to be a part of Jujutsu High? Nah, of course not. I totally don't know who Gojo is.
Listen.
So now with his cover blown, they start fighting. And Megami's fighting Constellation Girl, whose powers are pretty confusing, but he figures it out and takes her out. And Yuji just starts taking punches from Hakari. He's like, I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to recruit you. So now with Hakari and the rest of the gang recruited, it's time to go save Megami's sister and put our lives on the line. And look at that, Sasaki and the other dude. It's Yuji's old classmates. Hopefully they don't have to fight. So they go into the barriers and Yuji gets teleported into the air where he's immediately spawn camped and thrown through a building, but don't worry, she's fodder because she gets taken out when Yuji throws a metal bar at her. And then Propeller Dude thinks he wants to smoke, but he gets demolished. Meanwhile, Megami's straight up being a pimp, and he's just like, hey, where's Haguruma? I need those points. Lead the way. And Yuji's doing the same thing, except when they both tell them where they're at, the girl Megami's with lies to him and sets him up. But hey, at least Yuji found him. You wouldn't mind giving me your points, would you, sir? And he's like, nah, I want to see what happens when the Culling Game's curse technique removal happens. So not taking no for an answer. It's time for these boys to square up. So Mans activates his domain and it's a court trial. He's talking about did you go into this bar despite being underage? And Yuji basically has to plead his innocence. So Yuji says, nah, I only went in because I had to poop. But when that boy takes a look at the evidence, that boy is found guilty. So usually when you're found guilty, it strips you of your cursed technique. Since Yuji doesn't have one, it just took away his ability to use cursed energy. And Yuji is really proving why he's that guy. No cursed energy manipulation, and this man is doing great. And then he gets backed into a corner and figures out, wait a minute, I could do a retrial. This time it's about the Shibuya incident and he's accused of killing all those humans. And Yuji just like, yeah, I admit it, I did it, and gets sentenced to death. So that boy pulls out the death saber and they go into their final clash, but he's like, nah, Yuji's not a bad guy. I know he didn't actually kill all those people. It was Sukuna, because he already knows what the defendant did before he even looks at the evidence. So he deactivates his ability and gets socked. So he tells him, all right, Itadori, come sit down. I'm giving you my 100 points. Back to Megami getting set up, he gets attacked by this white hair dude. Then Reggie takes out his Shikigami wolf, and this guy drops his eyeball as an explosion. But you know Megami's still good. Then the white hair dude still want the smoke. And I'm not gonna lie, they is kind of boxing for real. But bro then summons Max Elephant, beats him in the sky, and takes him out. Damn, Megami kind of moving like his pops Toji right now. And then he's about to have to 2v1 these guys, but Fumihiko coming clutch. So now it's a 2v2. And Megami just starts chasing chasing Reggie, and now we're really seeing his ability in action, where he basically just Mr. Compressed, but better. He turns his receipt papers into things or effects depending on what's on the receipt. So he starts getting confident. He's like, yeah, you can't summon Shikigamis that already been injured, can you? So Megumi tells him, yeah, you're right, so I'll run. But Megumi's real goal is to lower him into this stadium so he can use his domain, since he has an incomplete domain expansion. But Reggie, that boy can't prepare. That boy summons 2 trucks and just says random bullshit, go. But it's too late, because Megumi has him right where he wants him and does his domain expansion. And Reggie does his hollow wicker basket, something similar to a simple domain, but since this is not a complete domain expansion, it fails. So he starts getting just spun, bro. This man's getting beat. And Reggie realizes Megumi has to hold the weight of his shadow, so he summons like 4 cars and Megumi out there struggling. But Megumi summons Max Elephant, and now they're about to see who about to get crushed first. But he ends up falling into Megumi's shadow, which has like no air, so he's suffocating. But he gives his car a command to bring him straight back up to the surface. But it turns out this stadium is actually above a swimming pool, so Megumi trying to drown him. So they get out the water and he's like, huh, you can't use your Shikigami anymore, and he can't use his receipts since he's soaked. So Megumi tells him, you know what we gotta do next?
We got a box.
But bro, Megumi was just lying the whole time. This man sneaks him with his devil dog. He's like, this dog not that weak, bro. You think those knives are gonna take it out? But Megumi's not finished, because he proceeds to walk down Shorty, but spares her because of the angel's voice, I guess. I don't know how she survived this long, honestly. We then see Yuta in the Sendai colony, which has a 4-way deadlock. This is when that boy Yuta comes through and interrupts the deadlock, bro. He tells Rika to protect the civilians because he's about to get active. He starts scrapping with bug fecal matter over here and is like, hold on, I feel like somebody's watching me. I'm gonna try to defeat this cockroach without reverse curse technique. But the cockroach low-key getting the upper hand, so he like, hold on, and uses reverse curse technique and blows him up. But round 2 is around the corner and she sends him across the map, and she basically can just distort space or the sky or whatever. But Ryu wants to fight too and starts blasting him across the field. Bro, who said Yuta's a fraud? Look at how he's moving. Pulls up on him and says, please fight more discreetly. Look at this beautiful stance, bro. Oh my god. And what proceeds to happen next is absolute cinema. They go from fighting in the building to fighting on the roof, Yuta doing flips, healing his hand, and then he starts running towards the train underway, knowing it's a trap, dodging every projectile. Then he does a big blast. He like, damn, I got him. And then he attacks him with a train. And then Yuro pulls back up, and now they're all just in a free-for-all. But now it's just time to pull Rika out. And with that, you know what time it is. And they all do their domain expansion, but the cockroach is still alive and breaks it from the outside. Bro, how is this dude still alive? And then we get this beautiful shot of them in a 4-way, and Ryu takes out the girl and Yuta kills the cockroach. So now they're about to have their final showdown, but Yuta actually copied her ability and redirects his laser to the sky. And then they start boxing, but he actually ended the laser in the sky to redirect and hit him. But don't worry, he's satisfied now. He's full. And then he asked for the rest of their points, and then yeah, that's how he acquired all his points. And that pretty much wraps up the segment of this JJK in minutes for now. Feel free to comment every mistake you see. I don't mind. Everything you hate or like about the video. Hit your likes, hopefully not dislikes, unless that's how you feel. Go ahead. And I hope you enjoy the video.